Hello, hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Um, Coming in. Hope we are all doing well today. Hope we're all having a good day towards the end of our day. Thanks very much for coming along today. Obviously, my name is Dan. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about EF and teaching in China and TEFL opportunities over in China, and what EF offer as a whole today. So thank you for coming along. I do have a presentation for you. I will share that with you now. Hopefully, the tech works well with me, and you can all see this. Um, Let me know if you can't. I'm assuming that we can. Um, just to give you um, a little bit about myself, I suppose, before we really jump into it. Like I say, my name's Dan. I work with EF English First, and I mainly work with recruiting teachers over in China. You will see in the bottom left hand corner there is a QR code. That is a reoccurring theme throughout these presentations. If you have your phone handy, feel free to scan them in. They will all come up at the end as well. But they're just some handy links. This one here on the left is for my personal LinkedIn page. If you wanted to learn more about myself, obviously all my information is over there. And obviously great way to connect in general. So I have that there. But like I say, my name is Dan. I worked in China for 2 years. I started my journey teaching TEFL back in 2016. So it's been almost 5 years now because I started in July. I worked over in a city called Chongqing in the southwest of China. If you haven't heard of it, I hadn't heard of it before I went over there. But it's a great city to work in with a population of over 30 million people. Worked in China for 2 years, like I mentioned, and now I work with our EF recruitment team. I'm actually a senior recruiter on the EF team. So that's a little bit about myself and EF, and then what your adventure could be is kind of what this presentation is about. So getting into TEFL teaching, what your adventure could be, whether it be with EF, whether it be with any company, I suppose in general, but what your kind of TEFL abroad career could look like. Obviously, I'm going to focus mainly today on China and EF. That is my expertise. That is the role I work in. If you're interested in working in China, you're talking to the right person. I talk very passionately about working in China, so I hope by the end of this presentation you can also feel that passion with me and really come away from this wanting to go and teach abroad, wanting to gain that TEFL and getting out there and seeing what's available to you. So, to tell you a little bit about EF, we were founded in 1965 in Sweden by our owner Bertil Holt. Bertil Holt also owns the Holt International Business School. Very, very clever man. He initially started EF by taking a group of Swedish students over to the UK, over to London in a bus. And that was the start of EF. It was a language travel tour, and since then it's grown even more. And as you can see now, we are a global force. We are in over 114 countries and regions where we kind of operate, including many of our head offices as well. As you can see, we have over 612 schools and offices in these countries. A lot of our schools are in obviously China, which I'm going to speak about today, but we do also have head offices all around. I work in our London office, obviously not currently based in the London office at the moment due to the pandemic, but that is my home base. We also have bases in Boston, in Malta, in Shanghai as well, and as well as Switzerland as well. As you can see, we are a huge company with EF. We are the largest English language provider and number one English language provider in China, and they make up a big majority of our 52,000 worldwide employees, and once again, ever growing. So that's a little bit about the background of EF and the size of the company, obviously, that I'm working with. EF's mission statement, this is such a nice thing to start with and kind of engage what we are about with EF. We are about opening that world through education. That is our mission statement. It sums it up very nicely. As TEFL teachers, I think we are all looking at summing, opening that world through education. We're all looking at taking those next steps, taking that journey, and working with education to really kind of give someone that next step, that next part in their life. So I love this statement, opening the world for education, and it's a really great point to make. Some great facts about EF. Another few great things I love talking about, a little bit more outside the box, and great reasons that EF is ever growing and ever trying to improve. We do have our own pro cycling team, a bit out of the box, I know, from teaching over in China or working abroad or teaching. EF decided to take on this struggling cycling team a few years ago, actually now, where they were on the brink of dropping out of the whole cycling league. Take them on and once again enforce that mission statement, open that world for education. And we thought this was a great way to do so, to get our name really out there, seen on the big stage. As far as I'm aware, they're actually doing very well. If you are into your cycling or watch any of your cycling, you've probably seen the pink EF jersey riding through the streets in the Tour de France. I believe they came fifth in the Tour de France the last time around. Don't quote me on that, but I know they've done very well. I saw the email. I'm not a massive cycling fan myself, but I have watched a few of their races going through. They're always on in all of the offices, obviously. If you go through, and there's lots of cycling things that are all coming in now, and they do often come into some of the offices if they're around to say hello and grace us with their presence. So that's a great kind of bonus, I suppose, as well with working with EF. Going on to the cutting edge research, I should say, that EF often do. We work with some of the top universities and some of the top educational providers globally to make sure that all of our equipment is up to date, to make sure that all of our resources, all of our teaching materials, everything we do is the number one, which makes us the number one in language learning. Some of the universities we work with, University of Harvard, really help us with our interactive and what we learn and how students learn and our research on that. We also work with the University of Cambridge and Trinity College London as well, in terms of developing our teachers and running courses through those as well. So we're really focusing on this cutting edge research to make us, the number one out there. And my favorite fact probably about EF is EF and the Olympics. EF are the official language provider to the Olympic Games. I believe we have done 5 or 6 Olympic Games so far. We are due also to do Tokyo. We was due to do it obviously last year, which is now this year. And we are obviously doing Beijing as well, being based in China mainly. So that is a little bit about EF. Going on from that, another great thing to mention is our Global Classroom Foundation opportunity, where we have opened up a school in Nepal. With this, what we decided to do with EF, once again, following back to that mission statement, to open that world for education. Some of you may know a few years ago, Nepal was hit by a devastating earthquake, and a lot of its local towns and communities really felt the effect of that. So what EF decided to do was open up a school to bring back that education, to really give back to that community in general and really kind of help them out. So what we do now, we have that school, we have that base, we're very prolific in that area. We send 2 teachers per month over to Nepal from our training teaching base to go over there to volunteer, to give back and help that community and teach the local community as well, teaching them English using the EF materials that we have set up already. It's a great project you can get into. It's a great project you can volunteer for. Some of my friends have actually been lucky enough to go out there and take on that. So it's definitely something you can throw yourself into and get into. We also do have a lot of different outreach programs with EF. So we're not just about teaching in our general classroom. We often work with local orphanages or more rural schools in each city as well, to give those teachers, give them something back and really kind of give them a new outlook on what they're doing over in China, and indeed kind of worldwide. So obviously I've mentioned locations. The locations I mainly speak about is China. We do also have our main locations in Indonesia as well. We've been in Indonesia now for over 30 years with 77 schools across the 5 major islands, including Bali. Probably one of our most popular destinations. I can tell you for a fact, when I found out I wanted to go and my manager told me, I was firmly in recruitment and that wasn't an opportunity for myself. But yeah, we do have those schools over in Indonesia as well, which is often obviously a popular choice. Well, like I said, I'm going to talk mainly today on China. We have been in China for 20 years, over 300 schools, and that is ever growing per year. We add around probably 10 to 15 schools per year in China, which is quite a lot, and always growing, and across 60 different cities. So if you're looking for any kind of city in China, if you've got any particular city in mind, the chances are EF are going to be located there. If we're not, you found a very peculiar city. I'd love to sit here and talk about you with every city, but I definitely couldn't name them all myself. Some of the big ones obviously include Shanghai, Beijing, Chongqing, like I've mentioned, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Xi'an, Chengdu. These big large cities that often are great draws for people as well. So a better way to look into this is look at EF's website. All of our cities are listed on there. So you'll be able to find a great place that really suits yourself. The best thing about China is there is a city that suits everyone. There is different draws to every city. So you'll really be able to find somewhere where you'll fit in and you'll really enjoy that culture. So the requirements for teaching with EF and teaching over in China, you do need to have a bachelor's degree to begin with. That is essential. You need to have any form of bachelor's degree. It does not matter what qualification it is, as long as it's a bachelor's or what subject it's in general. Either it doesn't need to be in TEFL or education or working with young children. It just needs to be a bachelor's. You do need to have a TEFL certificate as well. That is a certainty. You also need to hold a passport from one of the following 7 countries. So it either needs to be from the UK, Ireland, Canada, the US, New Zealand, Australia, or South Africa. So they are the country requirements. You need to hold a passport from. That is what the Chinese government has stipulated to us. So that's why we can only send those out there. You do need to have a clear criminal background check, as you do working in most schools or working with children in general. That needs to be obtained before going over to China. And then the big and the most important one, I would say, overall in general, is you need to want to be able to live abroad for over a year or more. Most TEFL providers, most TEFL companies, most programs working abroad are going to be 12 months or more. EF is a 12-month minimum contract to begin with. You can easily extend that. Like I mentioned, I stayed out there for 2 years because I had such a great time in my first year that I extended that stay. Lots of my friends now have been out there 3, 4, 5+ years. So it's been a great kind of journey for them, as it was for myself as well. So that's really your kind of main requirements in terms of that. And then in terms of teaching abroad, why are the reasons people are teaching abroad? Why do people want to go over and teach abroad? Whether it be China, whether it be Indonesia, any country, why are teachers teaching abroad? Simple. The adventure is obviously number one. Once again, the QR code to our uh, Instagram page in the bottom right. Feel free to scan that and have a look. See some of our teacher adventures. We post some amazing stories on there of day-to-day life for teachers. So they're great. But the adventure is amazing, right? You're looking to go, you're looking to see new sites, you're looking to learn about new things and really really enjoy that and have fun with that. With the adventure, obviously, you're looking to explore. China is my main hub, like I said, because I love to explore. I was able to see not only my city in China, but many others, as well as having the rest of Asia at my fingertips. I was able to go to Thailand, Japan, Vietnam, all these places, all summed up into one, and be able to go out there and really enjoy it and see these places pretty much one for a lot cheaper because I was already in Asia than if I was to travel over here from the UK to every single one of them, and two, a lot easier as well. A lot of them are only a couple of hours away on a plane or be able to easily access these areas. So the exploration is a huge part of TEFL. It's a huge part of teaching English as a foreign language. No matter where you are, everyone has got those same interests. Everyone's looking to teach and everyone's looking to explore and see more of the world, which brings the big international environment. Obviously, I've mentioned the 7 countries that we employ teachers from, or the 7 passport holders, I should say, that we employ teachers from. But everywhere is such an international environment. The backdrop you can see here is Shanghai, probably one of the most international places you will go to. Every corner you turn, there will be someone from a different nationality, different cultural awareness going on, and so many kind of different cultural draws in there. Shanghai is one of my favorite examples. Being from the UK, I remember walking along the first time I was in Shanghai and seeing a Marks and Spencers. I've never seen a Marks and Spencers outside of the UK in general. So why that was over in Shanghai baffled me. There's also a pie and mash shop. There's also some great Russian cuisine and amazing things over there. So it's so international, and you will meet so many different international friends over in China as well. I've been able to meet people from all over the world, and been able to continue my travels all over the world with these people as well. The culture is also a huge draw. The food, for one, as you can see in your screen, is amazing. Nothing like Chinese food you've probably ever experienced over here. It is very different over here. It's very westernized, but it's amazing nonetheless. And the culture is incredible. It's probably the best culture I would say I have ever been lucky enough to experience. I was able to go over there, and every time you're walking down the street, someone wants to talk to you. They want to ask you where you're from. They want to find out more about you and are really interested in you personally. I went over there, and we can get onto this with little to no Chinese initially, and I was always offered a helping hand no matter where I turned, which was an amazing kind of experience to have, and really does make you feel at home, even though you're miles and miles and miles away from home. So training centers, like I mentioned, obviously we are the largest language provider. We are a training center, we're a training school. What to expect from training centers in general in terms of TEFL training centers worldwide and globally. This is what you should be, I say, expecting as at least a minimum. Make sure you're checking up on everything. Make sure you're working with someone who has got those accreditations, that is looking after their staff as well. So with us, we work with kids and teens and online. You'll see there's a big gap in this slide. We did also have adults. We do still have adult classes, but they're not as tied to EF as they once were. They currently run slightly separately, which is why I talk now on kids and teens and online. The kids and teens, which was my background. I worked with kids and teens, like I say, my bread and butter, I should say, is a great way to get into TEFL teaching. In general, working with kids and teens, in EF, we work with all students from 3 years old all the way up to 18 years old. So you're working with a large age range of students. And you'll learn a lot of this in your TEFL courses and TEFL qualifications, how to work with these different students, how to really engage these different students. These are kind of some pictures of what a kids and teens classroom will look like. As you can see, I've got another QR code. Love the QR codes. So if you are scanning along, scan this one. This one is, I believe, to our YouTube page, with some great videos on what to expect in the classrooms, what to expect with EF, and even just China in general. So feel free to scan into that and have a look around with some great information on there. This is what you would expect in any kind of TEFL classroom in general. It's nice, it's small, it's nice and concise. The maximum students we have overall in our classrooms are 16, but that's with our older students. From our 3 to 6 year olds, the maximum is 10, and you're also going to have a teaching assistant in there with you. So nice and small classes, like you say. We have a lot of teacher to student interactions, a lot of student to student interactions. You get them up, you have fun, you really make them enjoy their time. As you will see in every one of these promotional photos, they are smiling, as every promotional photo will do. But in our classroom, it is such an exciting environment. 99% of the time, you're going to be smiling anyway. I'm not going to say 100 because there's always that one. Yeah, we learn a lot through assimilation. We have lots of games, lots of activities. We use flashcards. We use different kind of materials to get these kids up, to get them active, to really make them enjoy their time. And then I mentioned that cutting edge research. This brings into the interactive whiteboards that we are always using, with all the different information that we have, and all the lesson plans we've got on there, and all the great activities that the students have and can use. They're great fun to use with, and like I say, they're constantly evolving the materials and things that are on these whiteboards. I'm no tech genius, I can tell you that for sure, but these things do some amazing things very easily as well, and the students love them. They love to play with them. They love to get up and touch them and figure out all the things to do with them whilst learning and having fun. So that's some great things to see and expect with kids and teens in general. Another amazing, nice photo of students having fun, enjoying their time, and really kind of getting involved. But as you can see, all the classrooms very modern, very bright colors, lots of kind of things in there to engage those students as well. The online center. So the online center is actually based over in Shanghai. With the online center, you are teaching online in general. What that is you have an online platform, very much I imagine like what we're on now, like Zoom. We have our online teaching classroom, set up. It has been set up for a long time. Was very, very helpful. Obviously, when the pandemic hit initially in March or January, I should say, over in China last year, we was able to move all of our students over to this online platform and adapt it very quickly to keep everyone teaching and everyone working very well online. So with that, obviously that helped move that on. But in our online center in Shanghai, which has been set up now for many years, this is where you'll work. It's part of gaining that international culture, that really great experience, but teaching online, if that's what you're more comfortable doing. I have been to the online center. It's actually an amazing building, an amazing place. So if that's more of your interest, going over and teaching online and teaching TEFL while being out there, then that's the place for you. Going on to a package, once again, what package are you looking at in terms of what should you be looking for from a TEFL provider? What should you be looking for once you've landed a TEFL role? What are the normal packages? What can you expect when you arrive? What's the kind of salary and going on from there? So our basic monthly salary starts at around £1,500 a month to around £1,700 a month. To convert that over to Chinese RMB, you're looking at around 13,000 RMB to around 15, 16,000 RMB per month. We do pay for flights initially as well. So the majority of cities that we fly to, like I mentioned, over cities, you will get your flights paid for. If we don't initially pay for the flight out there, you will have a flight allowance as well within your salary that works up to around 8,000 RMB, which is around £600-700 to kind of cover flights to China and back from China as well. But the majority of flights are covered. The biggest city that I think we don't cover at the moment is Shanghai. The rest of the big ones are all covered. And at the moment, I believe we actually are included Shanghai. And that does change dependent. Sponsored legal work Z visa. In general, that's the first time I've called it Z visa for a while. I normally say Z because I work with a lot of Americans, so I'm glad I've said Z visa there. But the sponsored legal Z visa is what we will help you to obtain. So if you are successful and you want to come over to China, you will need to be coming on a Z visa over to China. We will sponsor you and we will work with you that whole way up to that. When I first went over, my recruiter worked with me to go through all that paperwork to make sure every kind of line was dotted and signed in the correct way and in the correct place. Paperwork forms can be tricky, but we'll work with you that whole way through. And then when you get to China, we will reimburse those costs for you as well, to make sure that obviously it's pretty much cost free when you arrive in China. It's like any normal job. We're wanting you to come over and teach. So it's not a package, for example, where you're paying us. We are paying you. You're coming to work for EF as well. So be on the lookout for those as well. And health insurance in China, it's a necessity. You need to have health insurance to come over and work there. So EF have a 50-50 copay scheme. We work with our own company called Aetna, and you can pick whatever insurance you want. You'll figure out what works best for yourself, and then you'll be able to kind of go on from there. And we will 50-50 co-pay that insurance for you. We give you all the options and then you find out what's best for you, and what works, and we'll set that up for you. You do have a performance bonus with EF as well. I often get asked, and we will go into more detail about professional development. How can you professionally develop with TEFL and going on from that? And I'll talk more about that as the slides go on. But we do have a performance-based appraisal after 6 months. I actually believe that changed last week to 3 months. So even better, even more money, even sooner. And where you can earn an extra up to £250 per month. The performance-based appraisal is based on kind of how well you're doing, how much you're getting involved in the school, how many people you really inspire to be around that school and get involved. Obviously based on your lesson planning and your classroom abilities as well. But it's very easy to get that involved and increase that salary very quickly. That continues every 6 months after that. while you're over in China to keep increasing that. So you can imagine if you do stay there a few years or so, you will keep increasing that salary very, very quickly. Going on from that, obviously annual leave, as we are a training school, as we are a language school, we run fully throughout the year. So we don't run on normal school holidays. So you're not going to have your 6 weeks off. You're not going to have your 2 weeks at Easter, but you do have your 10 days minimum annual leave. And you also have your 11 national Chinese holidays. Now, national Chinese holidays can span for a few days, such as Chinese New Year is normally about a week. And obviously October festival as well, their lunar festival does span. So you have these 11 national holidays as well. Included in the package, obviously, we're going to pick you up from the airport. The worst fear of anyone could be getting to an airport in a random foreign country and not knowing what way they're going or where to go. We pick you up to the airport and take you through to the teacher hotel where you will stay. I will say at the moment, obviously, there is the quarantine hotel when you first arrive. If you're going over to China, we will obviously make sure that that is all set up for you. We have pay for everything in terms of that. We pay for your quarantine hotel. We pay for your teacher hotel as well. So you'll have an extra time in the hotel in general when you first get over to China. Another great thing that EF offer, we have the free Mandarin Chinese lessons. I would advise to take advantage of these if you can. Like I say, I went over to China with pretty much minimal Chinese to the point where I was actually learning how to say hello about 2 to 3 days before I went to China. So not the best start, but I learned and picked it up very quickly, and it was very easy for me to do so. And like I say, with the such accommodating culture out there, it was a great kind of experience for me to just throw myself into that. But I would advise taking advantage of some of these free Chinese Mandarin lessons a little bit before then. They are available to you well before you enter China, while you're going through that visa process initially. Take advantage and get in and learn some Mandarin before then. We also do work with, like I mentioned, the University of Cambridge to do TKTs or teacher knowledge tests. We also work with Trinity Cert TESOL and DIP TESOL and DELTEM, so you can further then improve on yourself. So you can further go on from that TEFL, get certificates and get diplomas in teaching English as a second or other language. EF can sponsor these for you, and we really do focus on your professional development, which once again, I'll go into at some point. We also do have weekly sponsored social and cultural events. So we have different events, different team building activities that you can get into weekly, whether that be from pottery making, I think I've done before, to rock climbing, to go-karting, dirt biking, or just walking up a mountain, or going and taking some photos, doing some photography classes as well. There are things going on all the time. So whatever you are interested in, whatever kind of topics or things that really kind of engage you, you will find something over in China that you can get involved in. The job rotation scheme is another great point to mention. So the job rotation scheme, what that refers to is basically, we obviously have those schools, like I mentioned, in over 60 different cities in China. And we also have those schools in Indonesia as well. So a lot of teachers do decide to go from one city to another, or even from one country to another. And that job rotation scheme allows them to do that. After you've spent your year, let's just use Shanghai as an example. If you wanted to go to Beijing, we can help you do that. We can convert all your visa over, so you don't have to leave and then go back to China later on. You can stay in China and jump around from city to cities. One of my closest friends, actually, I initially met when I started my journey in Shanghai. And a year later, he turned up at my school in Chongqing. He then went on to Chengdu from there, and then I believe Beijing after that. So he's been over there now about 4 years or so, just chopping and changing cities every year. So he's having a great time, and that's definitely potential for yourselves to do that as well. Great question I always get asked in terms of China. What's the cost of living? How much am I going to be looking at doing everything? What's kind of my disposable income? How much can I save? And this is really a great slide to sum that up. I believe all of this information is found from Numbeo, which is a great website. If you have thought about teaching abroad in any country, Numbeo is your best friend. It compares cost of living from London to Glasgow, Glasgow to Sydney, Sydney to Shanghai, and you can really see the differences and see what you should be expected to pay in. So you can type your hometown in and then go on from there and see what really is the cost of living. But this is the average cost of living in China. Obviously, it does depend city to city. Some cities are slightly cheaper, some are more expensive in general. But this is very much an average, like you say. You're probably looking at around £1,500 salary to begin with onwards, and around about £818 savings after all of your kind of outgoings in general, rent being obviously the biggest one. I was able to save, like I say, and send home to the UK around five to £600 a month without really trying and living quite a lavish life over in China in general. So part of the reason I love China as well, I was definitely living very more comfortably, as I say, over here, living in London, which is a lot more expensive. But anyway, we move on and we'll go into our onboarding process, which is another thing to be key to look out for in all kind of language schools and language providers. And I'll tell you obviously what EF offer in terms of this. So visa processing, we've spoke about, you would work the whole way with one recruiter and that recruiter solely. So I'm a senior recruiter. You could well be lucky enough to come through and work with me. I hope you'd say lucky enough anyway. I'm sure many of the teachers in my pipeline would agree, hopefully, and say that I've helped them very much so in terms of the whole visa processing and making sure you get over to China until you get out there. When you do get out there, like I mentioned, someone will pick you up, will make sure that you are feeling comfortable, getting ready to start that journey. You will meet and greet your new teachers. You will have a big kind of orientation day where you will meet everyone. You'll actually have their contact details before landing in China, so you can talk to them, you can message them, and really kind of figure out who you're going to get on with. Some people figure out who they're going to live with, and some people meet even before that when they're in their home countries to just kind of make sure they're not, even though they're going alone, they've got someone there with them as well, because you're not always going alone, and you often start in these big groups of 20, 30, 40 teachers all on the same time. With the housing support, another big question I get asked all the time: what's it like finding housing in China? Is it easy to find housing in China? How do I find housing in China? The best way that EF had found to work with this is we actually will give you a presentation, we'll give you a rundown on how to find accommodation in China in general, or in your city, I should say. On the first day or two of your onboarding process, when you're first landed in China, one of our teacher ambassadors, one of our teacher trainers will come in. They will give you this presentation. They'll talk to you all about the different types of housing, where a lot of our teachers live, the questions to ask, where you might like to live, and things like that. And then we'll put you in contact with our English speaking estate agents that we work with in those cities. They'll be expecting you. They'll be already know the different areas you'll want. They'll already know what questions you're going to ask. They'll be prepared with all of this as well. And they'll be able to show you around the city to some of the accommodations that are best suited towards yourself. And that's the way we've found. We don't just want to pick you up and put you somewhere. If you're comfortable, obviously you're going to be more likely to spend that year. So we give you all the tools and information and let you go and find somewhere that's then best suited to yourself. In that time as well, we will give you a city orientation, give you the whole tour guide experience. We will show you the hot spots where teachers like to go, the main tourist attractions in those first kind of few days to really get you settled in, get you understanding where you are in the city as well. We've mentioned some of the Chinese language lessons available to you beforehand. You will also have a language lesson when you first arrive. Obviously, I told you I went over there with minimal Chinese. This really helped me out on arrival, I'll be honest with you, and is a great way to just kind of get involved and really learn that. We have a great online EF teacher community, which I've mentioned. Before you go over to China, we have a great one when you get over to China as well, where you can really start meeting some more teachers out there. And we've already touched on the health insurance that EF will help set up when you get out there to make sure that you are fully covered for all your health insurance needs. A thing that I mentioned once again, and I said I would get into this, is different career paths. And this is a great thing to note. Any good kind of, I suppose, language school, any good career option when you're going over into TEFL isn't just about that teaching for a year. Yes, that is the main goal for some teachers, but a lot of people will look at continuing that career. Like myself, I would say 5 years ago, I didn't see myself sitting here today, but I am, and I love every minute of what I do, which is why I'm still doing it. But I started as a teacher, very much like yourselves, going to some of these talks and learning about TEFL opportunities over in China and in any other country as well. I started as a teacher, I worked my way up to a senior teacher, and now I work on the academic side as a recruiter, I suppose. And these are some of the career options. Like I say, with management, you could become a director of studies if that was your main goal, to run a school and have these teachers underneath you. That's a very viable option. A lot of my friends that I started with have been director of studies now for a year or two. So working hard can really work your way up there. Um, Academics operations manager, project manager, production manager. These people are in charge of maybe 2, 3, 4 schools, even more so in some of the bigger cities, overlooking a lot of our production and what we do and how we get the most out of our teachers. So if you're looking into management and those areas over in China, this is a great stepping stone. Like I say, it's not always just about the teaching. There could be so much more from there. You can go down the academic route, like I mentioned, kind of the teacher trainers are amazing. I actually initially, when I first started, remember looking at my teacher trainer and being like, I'd love to do that one day. Went down the recruitment route, but it's a great opportunity. We have lots and lots of new teachers always coming in, so they're always looking for teacher trainers as well, as well as, like I say, product managers, editors, writers. A lot of our old teachers go into all of this. They've studied what we do, and they've been there. They've been at the forefront of it. So they want to go into the content creation, and they work with that. Going on from that, obviously we have our big marketing team. My team is teacher recruitment and training with the marketing team as well. So obviously a lot of our teachers, they've seen what teachers are drawn to. We've seen what people like to go to, and reasons why we can come on from that. So that's why I work with the recruitment team. I really enjoy that side. And then we also have, like I say, we are in so many countries. If you're looking at going international, you could be a tour leader, you could be an online English teacher, or even going on from that. So there's so much to go into, so many routes for development with EF. And I think that's what you need to be looking into if you're looking at going with a language TEFL company. We really do invest in your future with EF. I've mentioned these, so I won't go into too much detail because I've touched on these before. With EF, obviously, we really focus on building your career. So not just within EF, but with going on from there, if that's what you're looking to do. We work with University of Cambridge, we work with Trinity College London to get these accreditations. And as you can also see on screen, we also have our own EF qualifications as well. So EF have their own training team. They're actually amazing. I do a lot of their courses myself because they're always coming out with different courses in management, how to teach grammar, how to teach phonetics, kind of working on yourself in general. So it's not globally recognized as these DIP TESOLs or DELTEMs. They're great qualifications to have and are really amazing. And obviously work well with your internal development with EF as well. They're amazing to see. Teacher engagement, I know I mentioned this and I said I would come back to this. There is teacher engagement for absolutely everyone, and there are great communities everywhere. There are summer parties where you'll meet all the teachers from your region. So if you're in Shanghai, that's a huge party with thousands of people there, very much like Beijing as well. If you're in one of our smaller cities, I would say Chongqing, but they've blown up a lot since I was there. But when I first started, there was around 50 to 60 of us, and we'd all get together of a summer, and we'd have this big party and big event. Like I say, we'd also do big weekly events as well, whether it be from go-karting or kayaking. I know they do like free diving and things in Shenzhen and places like that, where they've got all that access. So there's amazing things to do. We often have different societies as well. So you will often find a different society or a club, whether any sport you're in. I know, once again, the big cities are obviously famous for it, but you'll have a football club, a rugby team. Going on from that, I know in Shanghai, they had a wine tasting society. So that's really the extent that the EF kind of lets and gets teachers involved with each other. I don't know how they got away with that one. I'd never taught in Shanghai, otherwise I probably would have joined. But I know that that's probably extended from there as well. So there are lots and lots of things to really get involved in. Like I say, so much teacher engagement. So like I say, although these teachers You may be going there alone. You're not. You're going there with so many other teachers on that journey as well. Whether they've started a few weeks before you, a few months before you, a few years before you, everyone's been in that boat. And these engagement opportunities are a great way to meet all these people that aren't necessarily in your school, but they are around and working in some of the other EF schools as well. And that touches on the community, right? EF has such a big community, and it is just one big EF community wherever you go. You will never probably go to a city in China and not bump into an EF teacher. I don't think I've ever managed to do it. I would love to do it at some point, but I always have. They're everywhere. And as soon as you mention you work for EF, it's welcome, come around here, let me show you this, let me take you to my hometown, and everything like that. And it's a great community to be a part of. Even here in the UK, we have such a big EF community over here. I'm often walking around and I've got EF branded materials on and things like that. And so many people will stop me and be like, "Oh, you work for EF," or "Oh, I've done a tour with EF, I've done this," and things like that. And it's a great kind of company and global brand to be involved in. And that's part of the reason I love it as well. What to ask, key questions to ask any kind of company, I suppose, that you're looking to going to. If you're going to work abroad, I hope I've covered most of this for you. But kind of your age groups, what their motivation is, why people want to teach, what the company's kind of key taglines, like I mentioned, and what kind of numbers you expect in the classroom. I think your biggest fear is to step into a classroom of 70, 80 students. So ask those questions. Ask if they've got their own curriculum, which EF do. Ask what support you get. Ask what opportunity there is to be creative, and things like that. Obviously, like I say, we have all our teaching materials for you, but they're there to be edited, they're there to be adapted, they're there to be kind of improved upon. That's why you can really jump into that. Ask about the professional development, like I say, and focus on what you want to achieve. Ask. A lot of our recruiters are obviously experienced, they're seasoned. Like myself, I've been doing this now, teaching and recruiting for almost 5 years. So if you're looking at doing that professional development, very much like all of my recruiters, ask them, say, what would you see as the best thing, or what would you say is the best course you've done, or how would you kind of say that I progressed my TEFL career? You just could be at the start now, but you could be where we are, or even surpass that in the next few years. And then also make sure you ask about your salary, your annual leave, your hours, and what help you're getting with the visa. The visa is a big step, so make sure you do ask about it, because it is important that it goes through the right way, and you do want to be helped and supported through that, to make sure that everything is done correctly.